Chapter 7 of Quit Your Worrying by George Wharton James. Causes of Worry. Worry is as multiform and as diverse as are the people who worry. Indeed, worriers are the most ingenious persons in the world. When every possible source of worry seems to be removed, they proceed immediately to invent some new cause which an ordinary healthful mind could never have conceived. The causes of worry are innumerable. They represent the sum total of the errors, faults, missteps, unholy aims, ambitions, foibles, weaknesses, and crimes of men. Every error, mistake, weakness, crime, and so on is a source of worry, a cause of worry. Worry is connected only with the weak, the human, the evil side of human nature. It has no place whatever in association with goodness, purity, holiness, faith, courage, and trust in God. When good men and women worry, in so far as they worry, they are not good. Their worry is a sign of weakness, of lack of trust in God, of unbelief, of unfaithfulness. The man who knows God and his relationship to man, who knows his own spiritual nature and his relationship to God, never worries. There is no possible place in such a man's life for worry. Hence it will be seen that I believe worry to be evil, and nothing but evil, and therefore without one reclaiming or redeeming feature, for it can be productive of nothing but evil. If you really desire to know the sources of your worry, study each worry as it comes up. Analyze it, dissect it, weigh it, examine it from every standpoint, judge it by the one test that everything in life must and ought to submit to, namely, its usefulness. What use is it to you? How necessary to your existence? How helpful is it in solving the problems that confront you? How far does it aid you in their solution? Wherein does it remove the obstacles before your pathway? Find out how much it strengthens, invigorates, inspires you. Ask yourself how much it encourages, enheartens, emboldens you. Put down on paper every slightest item of good, or help, or inspiration it is to you, and on the other hand, the harm, the discouragement, the evil, the fears it brings to you, and then strike a balance. I can tell you beforehand that after 10 years' study, if so long were necessary, you will fail to find one good thing in favour of worry, and that every item you will enumerate will be against it. Hence, why worry? Quit it. Worry, like all evils, feeds on itself and grows greater by its own exercise. Did it decline when exercised, diminish when allowed a free course, one might let it alone, even encourage it, in order that it might the sooner be dead. But unfortunately it works the other way. The more one worries, the more he continues to worry. The more he yields to it, the greater becomes its power. It is a species of hypnotism. Once allow it to control, each new exercise diminishes the victim's power of resistance. Never was monster more cruel, more relentless, more certain to hang on to the bitter end than worry. He shows no mercy, has not the slightest spark of relenting or yielding, and his power is all the greater because it is so subtle. He wants you to be careful, taking good care, however, not to let you know that he means to make you full of care. He pleads love as the cause for his existence. He would have you love your child, hence worry about him. He thus trades on your affection to blind you to your child's best interests by worrying about him. For when worry besets you, is harassing you on every hand, how can you possibly devote your wisdom, your highest intelligence, to safeguarding the welfare of the one you love? Never was a slave in the South, though in the hands of a Legree, more to be pitied than the slave of worry. He dogs every footstep, is vigilant every moment. He never sleeps, never tires, never relaxes, never releases his hold so long as it is possible for him to retain it. When you seek to awaken people to the terror, the danger, the hourly harm their slavery to worry is bringing to them, they are so completely in worry's power that they weakly respond, "But I can't help it." And they verily believe they can't, that their bondage is a natural thing, a state ordained from the foundation of the world, altogether ignoring the frightful reflection such a belief is upon the goodness of God and his fatherly care for his children. Natural? It is the most unnatural thing in existence. Do the birds worry? The beasts of the field? The clouds? The winds? The sun, moon, stars, and comets? The trees? The flowers? The raindrops? How Bryant rebukes the worrier in his wonderful poem To a Waterfowl, and Celia Thaxton in her Sandpiper. The former sings of the fowl winging its solitary way, where "rocking billows rise and sink on the chafed ocean side." Yet though "lone wandering," it is not lost. And from its protection he deduces the lesson: He who, from zone to zone, guides through the boundless sky thy certain flight, in the long way that I must tread alone, will lead my steps aright. And so Celia Thaxter sang of the Sandpiper: He has no thought of any wrong, he scans me with a fearless eye. And her faith expressed itself in a later verse: I do not fear for thee, though wroth the tempest rushes through the sky, for are we not God's children both, thou little Sandpiper and I? There is no worry in nature. It is man alone that worries. Nature goes on her appointed way each day unperturbed, unvexed, carefree, doing her allotted tasks and resting absolutely in the almighty sustaining power behind her. Should man do any less? Should man, the reasoning creature with intelligence to see, weigh, judge, appreciate, alone be uncertain of the fatherly goodness of God, alone be unable to discern the wisdom and love behind all things? Worry, therefore, is an evidence that we do not trust the all-fatherliness of God. It is also the direct product of vanity, pride, and self-conceit. If these three qualities of evil in the human heart could be removed, a vast aggregate amount of worry would die instantly. No one can study his fellow creatures and not soon learn that an immense amount of worry is caused by these three evils. We are worried lest our claims to attention are not fully recognized, lest our worth be not observed, our proper station accorded to us. How we press our paltry little claims upon others, how we glorify our own insignificant deeds, how large loom up our small and puny acts. The whole universe centres in us. Our ego is a most important thing, our work of the highest value and significance, our worth most inestimable. The fact of the matter is, most men and women are inestimable, their deeds of value, their lives of importance. Our particular circle needs us, as we need those who compose it. We are all important, but few indeed are there whose power, influence, and importance reach far. Most of the men and women of the world are ordinary. A man may be a king in Wall Street, and yet influence but few outside of his own immediate sphere. Most probably he is unknown to the great mass of mankind. Adventitious circumstances bring some men and women more prominently before the world than others. But even such fame as this is transient, evanescent, and of little importance. The devoted love of our own small circle, the reliable friendship of the few, the blind adoration of the pet dog, are worth more than all the fame, the éclat, the renown of the multitude. And where we have such love, friendship, and blind adoration, let us rest content therein, and smile at the floods of temporary and evanescent emotion which sweep over the mob, but do not have us for their object. I have just read a letter which perfectly illustrates how our vanity, our pride, and personal importance bring much worry to us. The writer, practically a stranger coming from a faraway state, evidently expected to be received with a cordial welcome and open arms by one who scarcely knew him, given an important place in a lengthy programme where men of national reputation were to speak, and generally be treated with deference and respect. Unfortunately, his name was not placed in full on the programme, curtly initialled, he called it, and owing to its length, the chairman caused me to spoil my remarks by asking me to shorten them. And a hotel clerk outrageously insulted him when he asked for information. Then, to make ill matters worse, piling ossa upon pelion, he was asked to speak at a certain club with others. One of the newspapers, in reporting the event, commented upon what the others said, and did but ignore him. This he thought might have been merely an oversight, but when the next day he saw another report wherein he was not mentioned, he was certain it was a deliberate intention to ignore him. He then asks that the person to whom he writes try to find out who is responsible for this affront, and tell him, in order that he may worry some more, I suppose, over trying to get back at him. Poor, poor fellow! How he is to be pitied for being so sensitive, so sure that people regard him enough to want to affront him. Here is a perfect illustration of the worries caused by vanity. 5 complaints in one letter of indignities or affronts that an ordinary, robust, red-blooded man would have passed by without notice. If I were to worry over the times I have been ignored and neglected, I should worry every day. I am fairly well known to many hundreds of thousands of people who read my books, my magazine articles, and hear my lectures. Yet I often go to cities and there are no brass bands, no committee, no flowers or banquet to welcome me. No, indeed, the indignity is thrust upon me of having to walk to the hotel, carry my own grip, and register the same as any other ordinary, common, everyday man. Why should not my blood boil when I think of it? Then, too, when I recall how often my addresses are ignored in the local press, ought not I to be aroused to fierce ire? When a hotel clerk fails to recognise my national importance and gives me a flippant answer when I ask for information, should I not deem it time that the Secretary of State interfere and write a state paper upon the matter? Oh, vanity, conceit, pride, how many sleepless hours of worry and fret you bring to your victims! And the pitiable, the lamentable thing about it all is that they congratulate themselves upon being filled with laudable pride, recognizing their own importance, and knowing that honourable ambition is beneficial. Nothing that causes unnecessary heartaches and worry is worthwhile, and of all the prolific causes of these woes, commend me to the vanity, the conceit, the pride of small minds and petty natures. False pride leads its victim to want to make a false impression. He puts on a false appearance. He wishes to appear wiser, better, in easier circumstances, richer than he is. He wears a false front. He is unnatural. He dare not, having decided to make the appearance and win the impression of falseness, be natural. Hence he is self-conscious all the time, lest he make a slip, contradict himself, lose the result he is seeking to attain. He is to be compared to an actor whose part requires him to wear a wig, a false moustache, a false chin. In the hurry of preparation, these shams are not adjusted properly, and the actor rushes on the stage, fearful every moment lest his wig is awry, his moustache fall off, or the chin slip aside and make him ridiculous. He dare not stop to make sure, to fix them if they are wrong, as that would reveal their falsity immediately. He can only play on, sweating blood the while. In the case of the actor, one can laugh at the temporary fear and worry. But what a truly pitiable object is the man, the woman, whose whole life is one dread worry lest his, her, false appearance be discovered. And while pride and vanity are not the only sources of these attempts to make false impressions upon others, they are the most prolific source. In another chapter I have treated more fully of this phase of the subject. Wastefulness, extravagance, is a prolific source of worry. Spend today, starve tomorrow. Throw your money to the birds today, tomorrow the crow, jay, and vulture will laugh and mock at you. Feast today, next week you may starve. Riches take to themselves wings and fly away. No one is absolutely safe, and while many thousands go through life indifferent about their expenditures, wasteful and extravagant, and do not seem to be brought to time therefore, it must not be forgotten that tens of thousands start out to do the same thing and fail. What is the result? Worry over the folly of the attempt. Worry as to where the necessary things for the future are coming from. While I would not have the well-to-do feel that they must be niggardly, I would earnestly warn them against extravagance, against the acquiring of expensive habits of wastefulness that later on may be chains of a cruel bondage. Why forge fetters upon oneself? Far better to be free now, and thus cultivate freedom for whatever future may come. For as sure can be, Willful waste and reckless extravagance now will some time or other produce worry. One great, deep, awful source of worry is our failure to accept the inevitable. Something happens. We willfully shut our eyes to the fact that this something has changed forever the current of our lives. And if the new current seems evil, if it brings discomfort, separation, change of circumstance, and so on, we worry and continue to worry. This is lamentably foolish, utterly absurd, and altogether reprehensible. Let us resolutely face the facts, accept them, and then reshape our lives bravely and valiantly to suit the new conditions. For instance, a friend of mine spent 20 years in the employ of a great corporation. As a reward of faithful service, he was finally put in a responsible position as the head of a department. A few months ago, he was sent east on a special mission connected with his work. Just before his return, the corporation elected a new president who shook up the whole concern, changed around several officials, dismissed others, and, in the case of my friend, supplanted him by a new man imported from the East, offering him a subordinate position, but at the same salary he had before been receiving. How should this man have treated this settled fixed fact in his life? He had two great broad pathways open to him. In one he would deliberately recognize and accept the changed condition, acquiesce in it, and live accordingly. It is not pleasant to be supplanted, but if another man is appointed to do the work you have been doing, and your superiors think he can do it better than you have been doing it, then manfully face the facts and accord him the most sincere and hearty support. It may be hard, but our training and discipline, which means our improvement and advancement, come not from doing the easy and pleasant things, but from striving cheerfully and pleasantly to do the arduous and disagreeable ones. The other way open for my friend was to resent the change, accept it with anger, let his vanity be wounded, and begin to worry over it. What would have been the probable result? The moment he began to worry, his efficiency would have decreased, and he would thus have prepared himself for another blow from his employers, another change less to his advantage, and with a possible reduction in salary. His employers, too, would have pointed to his decreased efficiency, the only thing they consider, as justification for their act. I would not say that if a man in such a case as I have described deems that he has been treated unjustly, should not protest. But when he has protested and a decision has been rendered against him, let him accept the judgment with serenity, refuse to worry over it, and go to work with loyalty and faithfulness, or else seek new employment. Even on the other hand, were he to have been discharged, there could have come no good from yielding to worry. Accept the inevitable. Do not argue or fret about it. Put worry aside, go to work to find a new position, and make what seemed to be an evil the stepping stone to something better. Mrs. Jessie Benton Fremont, the wife of the gallant Pathfinder, General Fremont, was afflicted with deafness in the later years of her life. She, the petted and flattered, the caressed and spoiled child of fortune, the honoured and respected woman of power and superior ability, deaf and unable to participate in the conversation going on around her. Many a woman under these conditions would have become irritable, irascible, and a reviler of fate. To any woman it would have been a great deprivation, but to one mentally endowed as Mrs. Fremont it was especially severe. Yet did she worry about it? No. Bravely, cheerfully, boldly, she accepted the inevitable, and in effect defied the deafness that had come to her to destroy her happiness, embitter her life, take away the serenity of her mind and the equipoise of her soul. If there had to be a battle to gain this high plane of acceptance, she fought it out in secret, for her friends and the world never heard a word of a murmur from her. I had the joy of a talk with her about it, for it was a joy to have her make light of her affliction in the great number of good things wherein God had blessed her. Laughingly she said, "Even in deafness I find many compensations. One is never bored by conversation that is neither intelligent, instructive, or interesting. I can go to sleep under the most persistent flood of boredom, and like the proverbial water on a duck's back, it never bothers me. Again, I never hear the unpleasant things said about either my friends or my enemies, and what a blessing that